The Buckeyes are back in Columbus after a 2,000-mile flight and heartbreaking loss to now the #1 team in the country. Ohio State is looking to get back in the win column, and it starts on Saturday against a former Buckeye. Welcome, everyone, to Keep It a Buck Lantern preview style. We're going to get you up to speed with everything you need to know ahead of the Buckeyes matchup versus Nebraska. So let's keep it a buck. So, Daniella, let's keep it a buck. I mentioned the Buckeyes are facing a former Buckeye, and that's Dylan Raiola, who committed to Ohio State way back in 2022, then decommitted, then committed to Georgia, then decommitted, and now he's found a home in Nebraska, and so far the team is 5-2. And in my opinion, that's as good of a start as you can ask for a true freshman quarterback, especially in the Big Ten.
Yeah, well, I agree. First off, let me just say I'm very happy he found his home. Second of all, yeah, I can agree. He's done very good as a true freshman. I mean, to go 5-2 your first year, that's really, really impressive, and there's no denying that. So it'll be very interesting, though, to see him back at Ohio State where he originally committed.
Yeah, Ryan Day had nothing but good things to say about Dylan, but let's dive into this matchup, Ohio State versus Nebraska. Now, these two teams met back 3 years ago in Lincoln, and it was a tight victory, 26-17. Thankfully, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's now a Seattle Seahawk, helped the Buckeyes get to that victory. But again, now they're favored by 25.5-point favorites by FanDuel. And for the most part, Ohio State has been pretty dominant in this victory, right? 9-1 all-time against Nebraska. And we all know Ohio State is coming off that loss against Oregon, right? They had a bye week, but the week before, a loss against now the #1 team in the country. What were your thoughts on that game?
Oh, stressed throughout the entire time. You know, you and I were texting. It was like we were actually in Oregon ourselves.
We felt like it, yeah.
Nobody knew who was going to win until that clock hit 0.
Yeah.
And even at 0 seconds, I was like, oh, we got that. We got the timeout. We got the 1 second timeout. No, that obviously did not happen. But, I mean, I think that overall the Buckeyes played great. I think that everyone who was saying that, like, the Buckeyes were going to win in a very easy way,
yeah.
I think that was way blown out of proportion. I mean, Oregon, they were #3. Was that what they were?
At the time they were, yeah. 2 versus 3. Yeah.
I think that, I mean, at the end of the day, people underestimated how good of a team Oregon actually is. And then, like I said in the previous episode, it's in Oregon. It's in their atmosphere. Their atmosphere is very insane. Mm-hmm. So, you know, traveling however many thousands of miles away that is, that's going to have a toll on its players. That's going to affect the way that they play, of course. Mm-hmm. And I think that Oregon obviously gave Ohio State a run for their money. And I think it was a huge wake-up call. I know Travion Henderson said yesterday that it humbled them, experiencing a loss this early on in the season. It's not something that Ohio State is really used to. You know, you never really see Ohio State losing this early on. Yeah. But I think it's important to remember it was a 1-point loss. Offense played great. Yes. Defense, of course, didn't look the way that they normally look. Correct. But I think that, you know, with the bye week and getting to evaluate what it was, those little mistakes that were made during that game, because it was really those little things that cost them the game. But I think overall, with the bye week, Ohio State's going to be coming back strong. I mean, hearing the players talk, hearing Coach Day talk, they all seem very confident, and they feel that that loss was necessary for them to keep going.
Yeah, Ryan Day said they had a great week of practice the last couple of weeks, he said. And then also Will Howard, he spoke of like the environment there. He said that was probably one of like the best environments he's been at before. So it was a lot with that game. But now let's go over to Nebraska. Now they're coming off a beatdown, right? Against Indiana, right? Against #16 Indiana, 56-7. I was talking about Dylan Raiola. That was probably one of his worst games. But again, he is a true freshman. He had over 200 yards, but 3 interceptions, that cannot happen. You're not going to win, especially in the Big Ten. If you're throwing 3 interceptions, you cannot put your teams in harm's way. So again, obviously, he's looking to have a bounce back game. And against Ohio State, the team he was formerly committed with, that will be a great storyline, I feel like, right? So I'm excited to see what Dylan does in this matchup versus Ohio State. But now let's talk about iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. Iron sharpens iron. Let's go ahead and talk about the Ohio State offense coming out of the Oregon game. So now they are ranked #6 nationally in both total offense and scoring, and they still have a 100% scoring rate inside of the red zone, which I'm really pretty shocked about that. I mean, it's great, but I was shocked to see that. I was like, oh, wait, really? I didn't even realize that. Yeah. As for defense, they are now the #2 in total defense, #3 in scoring defense, and #6 in rushing, of course.
Which is still good.
Yeah, it's still good, but of course those numbers after that Oregon performance.
Yeah.
And for Will Howard, I would say, despite the loss, he did have a really great game against Oregon.
Good.
You can't deny that. Of course, people can say what they want because of the last play or whatever. But he completed 28 out of 35 of his passes for 326 yards. He threw for 2 touchdowns, and he had a rushing touchdown in that game.
I believe I read that was his career high for
It was
passing.
his career high. So it was his career high. So he had himself a game despite everything.
He did.
So that's why I say offense is still going strong. I mean, I really think that they did everything that they could. And I think, like I said earlier, coming out of that loss, I think it's just going to keep them going.
Yeah.
As for Nebraska, their offense averages 25 points a game, and they're ranked number 87 in total offense, number 88 in scoring offense. So their offense in comparison to the Buckeyes is obviously, there's really no comparison.
Light years away, I would say a little bit.
Light years away.
But you cannot underestimate a team. Every team is going to come in and give you their best shot. So you need to be
Look at Vanderbilt and Alabama. So
any given Saturday.
Any given Saturday, doesn't matter who it is. You never know what will happen in the world of college football. That's that.
That's the fact.
As for their defense is actually pretty good. It's going to be giving the Ohio State offense a run for their money. They are ranked number 14 nationally, and they're number 1 in the Big Ten. And ranked number 1 nationally, number 1 in the Big Ten, with 21 sacks.
Wow.
So Will Howard, be careful out there.
Wow. That's number 1 in the Big Ten in sacks, and that's very important to note because obviously Ohio State offensive line is going to have some changes with Josh Simmons now being out, right? So it's like, who's going to step up? Obviously, Will Howard, he obviously can run, but you don't want him to get pressured so fast where he's not able to get the ball out, right?
Exactly. And then he throws interceptions, fumbles. Exactly.
Well,
so
that's very
that
important.
Is something that is very important to note because being number 1 in the Big Ten and 14 nationally with 21 sacks, that's very impressive. So there's no denying that.
Yes.
And as for their quarterback, Dylan Raiola, he has so far this season 1,592 yards, 9 touchdowns, and of course those 6 interceptions.
Well, again, it's important to know he threw 3 the last game. So before that last game, he was playing really. He's still playing really good
for a freshman. I mean, we have to take into account
he's a freshman.
There's those 3 interceptions in one game. That is, if that was Will Howard, everyone would be like, you can't be doing that.
Yeah, because he's a graduate. He knows this, right? But again, Dylan is a true freshman, so it was just a bad game for him against Indiana. But I think he'll play much better.
Yeah, we'll find out on Saturday.
Okay, so let's keep it a bug. What's some fun facts that you found out about this Ohio State and Nebraska game?
This is something I knew about Ohio State, not something I knew about Nebraska, but Ohio State and Nebraska are 2 of the most winningest programs in college football history. They have a combined 85 conference championships, 10 Heisman trophies, and 13 national championship trophies, which I knew the Ohio State perspective that, they are. I think I saw that Ohio State's only 1 win behind Alabama from being tied as the most winningest or something like that. But I had no idea that Nebraska was also up there. I was really shocked by that.
Wow.
Reading that.
Yeah, I mean, that had to be back in the day because in recent years, wow, I didn't know that either. That's very shocking to me.
Yeah, it is very
shocking. Well, hopefully Dylan can get them back on that, that winning record for conference championships and Heisman trophies. Because he can definitely be a Heisman Trophy winner. He was the number 2 quarterback in his class. So
yeah, exactly. He with the way he's playing so far, despite the interceptions, he has so much time to improve.
Yeah.
This is just his learning. This is his first season. He's got so much
All
time
respect to him. It's hard coming in as a true freshman and leading your team to 5 victories.
But 5-2.
That's very good. You couldn't ask for a better start in my opinion.
I was about to say I can't think of a freshman quarterback off the top of my head who
me neither.
Not off the top of my head, so
me neither.
Gotta give him his props.
Yes. Okay, so what's some other fun facts you found?
So the last fun fact that I found was that Ohio State head coach Ryan Day and Nebraska head coach Matt Rule both coached at Temple University at the same time as each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how
these
coaches from all different conferences are just connected.
They're so connected.
It's crazy. Networking is a huge thing.
Yeah, no, it really is. And it's ironic because Coach Day, I think I saw he was 26 years old while he was a coach at Temple, and he was the wide receivers coach.
Oh my God.
And now he's the head coach at arguably Wide Receiver University, the university that produces the most first-round picks for wide receivers.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I just thought that was crazy. There's really connections everywhere. Who would have thought that they'd coached together.
Yeah, and now they're coaching against each other, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be an awesome game. But once again, guys, thank you for tuning in to Keep It a Buck Lantern Preview Style, and we'll see you next week. It's Jayla Vanhorn
and Daniella Davila
with Lantern TV.